Well, David, it's really nice to see you again, albeit virtually. I trust you had a good Christmas break.
Yeah. Hi, Rodney.
So we were just talking, and it's very interesting. Now that you're here based in the United States, tell me about some of the things that people talk to you the most about.
Yeah, well, I spent about 30 years in China doing the China tax advice and relocated from China to the US 2 years ago. So in the past 2 years, the most topic I've discussed with our client and with our colleagues in the US are how to repatriate the cash out of China, right? China has been economically has been developed so fast, and we have earned some cash in China. But China is one of the foreign exchange controlled countries. So getting the cash out of China has been an issue. That has been a hot topic so far. Another issue, for example, if you do the global restructuring and then the China was impacted indirectly, it was not directly transferred, but the China entity was indirect transfer. So what will be the tax issue? And the key is whether you should report that transaction to the Chinese tax authority. I think we can do the indirect transfer in another session, but maybe a focus on the on how to repatriate the cash out of China this time.
Yes. So tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, now if we look at the law and the regulation, it has not been changed that much. In other words, it's not whether you can or cannot repatriate the cash out of China. The question is, first of all, how? Second question is timing. So let's look at how to repatriate the cash just for a high-level summary. Now, certainly you can repatriate the dividend out of China, right? You can sign a service agreement with a Chinese company and get the service fee out of China. You can sign a licensing or royalty agreement with the China entity. Now, the licensing and royalty can further separate it into whether it's passive, whether it's active, right? For the passive, it's more of a brand name. So the Chinese company use your global name, they have to pay a fee, that's it. Now, the rate will be low. But if you you say this is active IP transfer, I'm transferring the technology, I'm transferring the know-how, I'm transferring the process, then I have to charge a fee. So that's the active. Then the rate can be a bit of a high. Now, how high, that can be transfer pricing issue. So I'm not going to discuss that, but there's a lot of complication in that regard. But now look at those three different categories. The key lots of US company is missing is a compliance requirement. Now you cannot just send an email to the Chinese company, Chinese colleagues say, well, I saw you have lots of cash sitting in China. Can you just send some cash back to the head office in the US? That's not the way we're doing this in China because China is foreign exchange controlled country. So in order to get the cash out of China, you have to deal with the tax issues. You have to deal with the compliance issues. You have to deal with the time issues. From a tax issue, I will skip that because that's basically the withholding tax, etc. We can certainly discuss that, spend a lot of time on that. But look at the compliance side. Now, dividend is straightforward. You have a directed resolution, then declare, etc. once a year after the annual taxes are paid. So very straightforward. Now, the licensing agreement, the license itself may need to be registered in China, depending on whether that's a trademark, whether it's technology, whether there's a process, know-how, will be registered with the different authorities in China, in addition to the tax negotiation. So without completion of those registration, you can endorse that contract. You cannot repatriate cash out of China. So compliance is very important in getting the cash out of China. You have to have a contract. You have to have the contract registered with the government authority, for example, Commerce Bureau, a technology bureau or copyright and patent bureau, etc. So once you complete those registration with the contract, with the tax negotiation and the tax payment certificate, you talk with the bank. The bank review all those documentation. Quite often the document could be lengthy. So you have to comply all those documentations, not mentioning the amount, which is a transfer pricing issue. Then you can remit money out. Now, another important issue many clients did not actually pay attention to is the timing. Because a few years ago, the client said, we are very, very easy to get the money out of China. Now it's sort of difficult. So sometimes it's very easy, sometimes it's difficult. The law did not change, right? The compliance requirement did not change. I fulfilled all the requirements requested by the bank. But why sometimes it's easy, sometimes becomes difficult? Another issue, very important issue, is the timing. The timing related to the value of the RMB, which is local currency. When the RMB becomes very strong, it's easier to get the cash out of China because you have to buy foreign currency by surrendering the RMB to the bank, right? Because you can't get RMB directly out of China. You have to use RMB to buy currency, foreign currency. So when the RMB becomes very strong, it will be a little bit easier. When the RMB becomes weak, then the control becomes tight. They did not change the regulation, but they said instead of asking you 5 documents, now I'm asking you 8 documents. And I say that we may have a foreign exchange quarter. We ran out of quarter. Why did it come back in 3 months' time or 6 months' time? So tax, compliance, timing, those are equally important.
Well, it certainly sounds, David, as though there's just a whole lot of practical stuff for anyone who's thinking of repatriating cash from China. There's a whole lot of practical things to think through, and you need to give yourself plenty of time. It's not just like flicking a switch.
Yeah. So I always say that China did not block the cash repatriation. It's not whether you can or cannot is out of question. Yes, you can. By law, by regulation, you can do that. But if you look at the detail, there are procedures that you have to comply with. The procedure you have to go through before getting the cash out. It's not that simple. I shoot you an email, then you send the money to the US. For many countries, yes, that is the case, but not in China.
Well, that's just fascinating, David. I mean, it certainly sounds like there's just a lot of things to think through procedurally when you want to do this. So I'm sure that's why you're extremely busy. So thank you very much for spending time with me. And I am going to catch up with you to talk about indirect transfers because that's a really interesting topic, it sounds like. So thank you for your time today, David.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you for the arrangement.